A currency war is on right now, primarily between China and the US. The US dollar is currently excelling at this time versus its counterparts. But let us not forget the opposition, China. Dozens of countries have signed currency swaps with China in order to do a portion of their trade in their own currencies without using the reserve currency, the US dollar, first. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I want to get into China today. I want to also touch on India, Bitcoin as well. I have so much to discuss. Let's get into it right away, beginning with India. Indian banks warn that they will struggle to cope with a sudden rush for cash if the government lifts the limits on customer withdrawals on Friday. Think about that. They removed overnight 86% of India's currency from circulation. And you're talking about the equivalent of $37. Now, $37 may buy you more, but it doesn't matter. You're being limited to the amount of money that you can withdraw. This is capital controls. This is what they have done in countless countries. Look at Greece just a few years ago, where they were unable to pull their money out. They had to take just a little bit at a time. And what if you really needed that money? What if in that case, the euro was being devalued significantly? What were you going to do? Well, there's nothing you can do. If you have your money in the bank, you're screwed. That's why I always advise individuals to own real assets. In India, seems like they saw this coming and started to implement gold confiscation. And that is something that really frightens me very much. I'm going to keep my eyes on any new information regarding that. If you're from there or know any particular information, please let myself and everyone know in the comments here. Keep an eye on this, definitely. China bulls could be facing a grim New Year's Eve. What are we talking about here? Well, the first day of 2017 is when the annual $50,000 quota to convert the yuan into foreign exchange resets, stoking concern there will be a rush to sell the local currency. So, this is something that has been going on now for a little while, where the people in China are able to essentially pull their money out of China. That would be very beneficial, of course, but what does this tell you? I mean, you could read the article for yourself if you're interested. What this always makes me think of is, what will they do with the money? 50,000, perhaps not that much, but it's going to be added to all of their other assets. And you're going to have money flowing into different countries. It's going to get added to the real estate market, continue to fuel that. There's going to be purchases of any type of big ticket item. It's going to flow out of China and into everywhere else. And I assure you, all the places which have been feeling that rise, or assets that have been feeling that rise because of China, it will, in fact, happen yet again. And this will be pronounced, very pronounced, right at the beginning of the year, and then less pronounced towards the end of the year, at least according to this, as they tighten liquidity towards the end of the year. All right. So keep your eyes on this as well. Obviously important. Okay, Bitcoin fans, I've had countless people ask me about Bitcoin. I'll do a whole video on it, and I have done videos on it before, but this is in particular Bitcoin China. Bitcoin has been on a rise recently, and it is predicted that it will cross the 1,000 mark, and that is something very huge. It has done that before, but in a very, very sharp increase, and that was followed by a very sharp decrease. But now Bitcoin has seemed to mature, and as a result, you can see the rise has been much slower. In US dollar terms, this happens to be in Chinese. So it's interesting to see how you relate one currency to another, or you could relate that into Bitcoin, for example, or into gold or silver or oil or wheat or anything else. It starts to really change your outlook on the value of a particular item. Toshiba, it really took a beating here, as you can see, and the only reason I'm mentioning this is because, number one, this caused a ripple effect and started affecting other stocks, started hurting them. Number two is that if, in particular, Japan is allowing a big name to fall hard, it is probably not being supported by the government, which is really strange to me. They wouldn't normally let it fall to this degree in such a short period of time. So obviously the plunge protection team equivalent is going to have to step in and send this upward. Some QE will definitely be making its way towards the Toshiba stock. Bouncing back, the number of investors flipping houses and the average profit on house flips are at their highest levels in years. House flipping, obviously very huge. A few years ago, well, I should say about 10 years plus now. And this is when you know that you've gone to the end. You've truly exhausted all possibilities and have gone into house flipping. This is where a lot of people make money, no doubt. It's actually something that happens in Canada as well. I'll talk about that more in a second. But it shows you that people are using housing to make a quick buck, and that's very dangerous. Sure, you can hold on to the house, you can have renters in it, you can have your own house and rent out half of it, for example, the basement or the upper level or what have you. And this here is, potentially a good investment. But when you do house flipping, it's less of an investment and more of a gamble. And that's fine. People make money on that, but that's not really what I talk about here. In Canada, I just wanted to note one thing. Canada works a little bit different than the US in their real estate laws. Some of you know this, some of you don't. Basically, if you live in Canada, if you live in the house for 1 year, you do not have to pay capital gains if you sell it. So a lot of people, what they actually do is they move every year and use this as a way to profit off of. Seems a little bit troublesome to move so regularly, and also the risk that you may see housing prices decline or become stagnant. You also have to factor in closing costs, which are excessively expensive. In Toronto, for example, you have to pay 2 separate large, what they call land transfer taxes, just to be able to sell your home. And it is extremely expensive. You want to buy a home these days simply because of these taxes. In the US, there's an advantage, and that is the 1031 exchange. The IRS has something called a 1031 exchange, which allows individuals to roll over their profits on investment property indefinitely. So you can actually purchase a home, make your profit on it, sell that property, but as long as you roll over those profits into a new property, so let's say you had a bungalow and then you bought let's say 2 houses or something, and then you wouldn't have to pay any capital gains because you then purchased another home. And why does the government do this? Simply because they want individuals to get homes for people. You're doing a service to the community by doing this, and you get the profit off of it. You have all the tax incentives and everything else. Those are just a little tidbit there, a little segue. Hope you enjoyed that. Net unrealized gains on available for sale securities. Basically what this means is that interest rates have increased marginally, and as a result, bank profits already suffering. Can you believe it? Such a marginal increase globally. And in fact, some of them have decreased. But what we're looking at here is just the hardships that banks will face should they have increased interest rates. Now, you would think that the bank could also make profit off of the increase in interest rates, but today is a lot different than 1980, for example, where you have banks making profit off of derivatives and off of all this absolute garbage, collateralized debt obligations. You have the credit default swaps and everything else. It's a whole bunch of crap. And essentially, this is the new systems today. And you could see it as right here in front of you. Doesn't take a genius to figure this out. The economy simply can't handle it. Last but not least, this is part of the tyrannical totalitarian system. This individual here, won't read you the article, but one point, he was arrested, facing charges. Why? Well, he was driving home. And apparently he wasn't, he was all over the road, apparently. He was driving erratically. So the police officer gives him a test, finds negative to all the drugs. But they found positive to caffeine. And apparently that was enough to get him arrested, taking him to court, and they wouldn't drop the case. Now maybe that it has media attention. Perhaps that'll change. But this here is just a tyranny. You've seen it before. What about the forced blood draws that we've seen? What about all of the criminality that has been going on when they take advantage of individuals? And most of the time people just give in. But we need to make it known that this is unacceptable. That's why I'm talking about it right now. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to get arrested for caffeine abuse, give this video a thumbs down. If you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. So check it out at Amazon, where they have a look inside feature that will allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care. Okay, everyone, it's way past my bedtime. I'm really under the weather, but I had to get a video out. Really do appreciate all the positive comments and all the positivity that I'm getting from the channel. So thank you all.